Now we're actually going to make the macrame on the wall. So what I've done is I have taped my stick to the wall. So now you're just going to be able to see my hands, and we'll go from there. You can see that I have all of the strings on my stick. And if you remember, we did that via a lark's head knot. A lark's head knot, put your two ends together, find your middle, put your middle down behind your stick, fingers through, grasp the ends, pull up. So for this project, we'll be using 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And we usually will use a series of 2 cords together. We have 10 cords hanging, but now I am going to not reference those as 10 cords. I will reference any strings or cords as the number hanging down. So we have 10 cords on there. We are now going to make 5 square knots going across. That is what your project says. So again, the square knot, cord on each side, 2 in the middle. Make your 4, bring your cord in front, under and up through, snug it up, get it to where you want it, do your backwards 4. This cord comes down underneath, under, through, bring it up, adjust it to where you want your first row. That is 1 square knot. We're going to make 5. If you need a refresher on how to do the knots, look to the beginning of the video. Again, we're making a square knot. Make sure those cords don't get twisted, because you can see they do want to twist sometimes. Frontwards 4, backwards 4. That's the easiest way to remember it. Always a 2-step. See how that twists? Just straighten it up. You don't want to go too tight. You can see how that just hangs down neatly. That was our 3rd square knot. I also have my directions hanging on the wall next to me, so I can check off from the pattern where we are, so we don't get lost. So if you're going to do it ever without following and doing it with a video for any pattern, I would suggest definitely printing out your pattern and then marking off your steps so you can easily remember where you are. When I mentioned a stick that's not completely straight, this is a great example of how mine bows up in the middle. It doesn't matter how your stick stands. You just adjust your knots during this. So this has a little bit more, this has a little bit more, this has a little bit less. You just want a nice straight row going across. And I like the knots, and I like some of the patterns of the driftwood stick underneath. So you just put your strings accordingly. So we've just done our first row, 5 square knots. Our second row says to make 4 alternating square knots. So remember, we're going to ignore the first 2 cords of our first knot. We're going to use the last 2 cords of the first knot and the first 2 cords of the second knot. And again, just making your regular square knot, but it's alternating because you're changing your cords. So I'm going to make 4 square knots. Make sure they don't twist. Bring it up where I want it. And now it's easy because now you just continue with each of the next 4 sets of cords. So that was 1 alternating. Frontwards 4, backwards 4. And this is where you want to take your time to snug it up so it's all nice and even, not too tight. I need to make another one. So my next 4 cords, frontwards 4, backwards 4. If you are doing this on a tabletop, I would suggest taping your driftwood stick or your dowel to the tabletop just so it's not moving around for you. And now I'm doing my last 4 cords. So frontwards 4 and backwards 4. Making sure it's even. And then I will have 2 cords on the end unworked, 2 cords in the beginning unworked, and then I have 4 alternating square knots. So now we're going to do another row of square knots. This time it tells me to make 2 square knots on the end, skip the square knot in the middle, and do 2 more on the other end. So we're going to reach up here. We're going to take my first 4 cords. You can see there's a bit of a gap. So this is where, when you're snugging up your cord, you just want it to hang nicely. So I've got a nice straight line there. My cord is right there. Now I have to do my backwards 4. That's 1 square knot. I need to do another one. So my next 4 cords, make your 4. Snug it up. Make my backwards 4. Make sure they don't twist. So there are my 2 square knots. I want to skip the middle 4, so I'm going to ignore those cords, skip those 4. So then I am going to my next 4. Make my regular square knot. My backwards 4. And then my last square knot. And again, snug that up so that's hanging nicely, it's even. And my backwards 4 to finish the second pass of my square knot. So now we have row 3 completed. We've had the 2 square knots, we've skipped the square knots, and we have the other 2 square knots. And again, I am going to cross off my steps as I go. We are now on our 4th row, and it tells me that it wants me to skip 2 cords, make an alternating square knot. So by skipping my 2, I then grab my next 4 cords, pass 1, go backwards, pass 2, make sure they're not twisted, it wants me to skip all of the other remaining square knots. Go to the end, skip the 2 cords on the end, and use the next 4. So I'm skipping those so I can make an alternating square knot on the end. There's my front pass and my backwards 4 for my second pass. So we have 2 cords skipped, an alternating square knot, all of the remaining cords, an alternating square knot, and your last 2 cords. That was step 4. Step 5, I am going to make a square knot on each side. So I'm going to do the first 4 cords and the last 4 cords, again, leaving all of those unworked. So I start at the left side and make a square knot. Again, I want that to be nice and straight. I move my cord up underneath the other one, keeping that straight. I do my backward pass. I am going to ignore all of these, come to my last 4 cords on the right. Remember, when you're making a square knot, even though we're working on the right-hand side, you're always starting with the left cord. So I'm going to bring that up, make that straight, do my backwards pass. And snug that up. So this was row 5. Square knot on the end, ignoring all the middle, square knot on the other end. So from the pattern, we're right to this part. So we've just done step 5. For step 6, we're going to do the double diagonal half hitch knot going up towards the right side using the left middle cord. So it kind of sounds backwards because we're going up this way towards the right, but we're actually taking the cord and coming down. That will be my diagonal cord. So it says cord 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can see we're basically right in the middle in half. I'm going to take that cord. I'm going to be going down this way. So technically, I guess it would be, you could think of it as a diagonal pointing down towards the left, but if you're looking up, it goes up towards the right. But either way, we're going down this way. So remember to do a diagonal half hitch. This is my cord that will be my line. So basically, this pretends to be the stick. You can think of it that way, going down this way. I'm going to take my first cord. Remember, we're making the U. We're taking the cord and coming in from the back, going right through. Snugging that up, and we always have to do that twice. So making the U, I like to go in this way, bring my cord down through the U, and snug that up. That is your first double diagonal half hitch knot. So now I'm going to go to my next cord, still holding this in my hand, or if you have it on the table, laying on your table. Bringing it up to make a U. You can see I'm going to come in through that U, bring it down through, snug it up next to the other knot, and it's a double, so I always have to do 2 with the same cord. And that's my second. And we're going to continue doing this, making your U, bringing it down through and up through the U. That's 1. Doing that again. That's 2. And you always can know, like if you have to set it down and you want to know, where am I in this? You can see, you know you've done a double knot and you finished your double diagonal half hitch because you can almost see a line on that side, your cord coming through the middle, and a line on that side. So you know you're done. When you do your first pass, if I were to let that go, I have the cord basically coming right down. So I know it's not coming through the middle and there's not another cord on this side. So I know if I've set this down, I have to pick that back up. I didn't finish my double diagonal half hitch. Now I have, because you can see the 2. So we're going to continue this all the way down, bringing it through, bringing it up, bringing it through, snugging it together. Make your U, bring it through, snug. I like having it on the wall better than the table because it definitely, gravity is definitely helping me pull my knots down, helping me to be more even with my knots. I did it on the table the first time, and I'm not as happy with how the project lays. It wasn't as even as it could have been. The only problem with when you have it on your wall is you have to just keep making sure that your painter's tape stays on. We're on our final, bringing it through and bringing it through. So that is number 6, your double diagonal half hitch knot. So you can see it goes up towards the right, or you can say it goes down towards the left. Either way, it goes that way. So now our number 7 is we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to take the middle knot, 10 cords in going this way. Actually, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th cord. I think I wrote 11th. It's the 11th cord from the left-hand side, 10 cords from the right. So either way, the one that's hanging down first. So now we're going to go this way. For some reason, I have a much easier time doing the diagonal half hitch going that way versus that way. But you're still doing it the same way. You're making your U, bringing it down through, bringing your cord up, making a U, and going through. That's 1. Make your U, and bring it through. Snugging it up so it's even. Make your U, bring it through. Make your U, and bring it through. When we did this live in class, we had other people that were having the same problems. For some reason, it's easier going the other way. I don't like the way that one looks at all. That's the nice thing about macrame cord. If you don't like the way it looks, snug it back out. Making sure, if you do that, always making sure you're bringing your correct cord. Another trick that you can do if you're doing this up against the wall, and I'm going to show this trick, take another piece of painter's tape, tape that up. Then you don't have to hold it. I know that was the right cord because this is the one that's hanging. So I'm going to bring this up, make my U, bring it through. Snug it up, make my U, and bring it through. And snug it up, much better. Your next cord, make your U, bring it through, make your U, and bring it through. And there's your next one. So again, you're bringing it down underneath your diagonal cord, bringing it up over the top and down through. And again, all of the knots in slow motion are in the beginning of the video, so if you want a refresher, you can do that. And you also saw how easy it was to just take a knot out if you don't like it that way, if it just didn't look right. So again, underneath, bringing it over the top, you're bringing it through the U. I was just trying to do that slower because once you get the hang of it, it's easy to go quickly through that. And that is why I did the knots separately in the beginning. In class, we found this to be the hardest knot. So once you get this one down, you've got it. Definitely doing it up on the wall. You have to stop a few times because your arms get tired. But it definitely is worth it because of the gravity issue. It really does help make your knots better. I am doing this video sitting in a chair with this tape to the wall. I think it might have been easier to do it if you're exactly level with it. Your arms won't hurt as much. And our final knot. So now you can see your double half hitches. That way, that way. So you can see this, for some reason, I just do it much easier this way. I don't like this knot right here, so I just want to play with that a little bit just to make that a little tighter. And that's the nice thing. You can do that. So once you finish each of your knots, look at them and see if that's where you like them. I like that better. So I'm going to take that back off. So we have, that was row 7 that is done. That was our diagonal double diagonal half hitch knot going up towards the left, or if you prefer, going down. So that was 7. So for row 8, we are going to repeat row 6. So we're going to do this one again. So you can see right here we have 2. I like a little bit of space in between, so I'm not going to snug my knot right up against it, but if you want it to be double and tight and straight like this, go ahead. In the video from Macrame Princess, where I got this from, she has it right up against. I like it. I kind of like it separate. So now we're going to take this one again and come down, going this way. I do not need to... Oh, one thing I forgot to tell you, I'm sorry, and I do believe that I forgot to say this. Let's do one more knot in the middle. We can fix that in the directions. I want to do one connecting the two, just so there's not such a big gap. That's how hers is. That's how I did that to begin with. I don't think I like that gap, so take your most left cord from the middle, bring it over, use your first right hand side cord. Let's do one knot right in the middle. And that will connect them. Tighten that up so then it looks like a little diamond right there. So we're still going to continue using, this is still our right cord going this way, this is our left cord. We're going to do the double diagonals again. 1, 2. Remember, it's a double diagonal, so we have to do the double pass. And I'm not gonna snug it up so tight. I like the spacing. If you want to go all the way up to the top and snug that so they're so close together, you can do that. I like a little bit of spacing in between. So what we're doing is we're basically just repeating row 6. So for those of you in class who took the class, who have the original instructions, we did not do that part of it. So if you do not want as much of a space, do that extra knot. And again, if you don't like the way your knot is hanging, it is so easy to just undo it. That was my one. Here is my other. I just did not like the way that was hanging. That's hanging much better. I was getting sloppy. I was trying to go quickly. And you can see when you do go quickly. Another thing is you have to always make sure that you are using the same cord as your diagonal. So if it does help you to tape it up against the wall, do that so you don't get confused, because that will make your cords look a little wonky too. And now I have finished row 6. Like I said, I like the spacing between them. I like the little diamond, still connected, but a nice little diamond in the middle and hanging down. You don't see that on this one because it was on a table. So this, you can definitely see the difference of the wall. So now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 this time. So it's the 11th cord coming from the left-hand side. If we would have counted this way, it would have been the 10th. I am going to, because I have troubles on this side with it, I like taping it to the wall. So I'm going to just diagonal it down and just give it a little tape to the wall. So now I know this is my diagonal cord. I can't get confused to say, oh, which cord am I using? So now for row 9, we're repeating row 7. And we're going down towards the right. And again, I liked the little bit of space. I like to do my first knot very tight right up against, but then the second one, I'm going to leave that little spacing in between, kind of like a pinky spacing in between, snugging up at the top, just so it's not so loosey-goosey up at the top. and going through and doing the double diagonals. I always like say half of the stitch. It's the double diagonal half hitch knot. That's a mouthful. There is a single half hitch. This particular project called for the double. These are your basic knots in macrame. So with this project, this was a great beginner project that she put together because it has you use a good majority of the knots that you're going to use in other projects. Macrame can be used for wall hangings, used as keychains, purses. I've seen purses, I've seen dresses, tops, the good old macrame plant hangers, all kind of your same knots. Just depends on how you're setting them up, where you're putting them. So bring that up a little bit more. I'm going down a little bit too far. You can see how easy that is to just snug it up there. And my final knot, 1 and 2. Take that back off. So now we have basically the whole top half completed. Once we do row 10, that will be the complete middle of the project. And then basically what we did up here, we're going to continue on down below. So you've got halfway through. Yay. So for number 10, step 10, we're going to make this part right here, we're going to make one big, huge knot. So we're going to take the first 2 left side cords. We're going to take the 2 right side cords. For right now, we're going to move them up and away. So I'm just going to hang them up and away on top of my cord for now. So we don't want those 2 cords right now. Now I'm going to use the next 2 and the next 2. So we're ignoring our first 2 on each end. We're going to the second 2 on each end. We are going to make one big, gigantic square knot. So we're going to pretend these are our 2 strands hanging down. This is our 1 and our 1. So just like we did our other basic square knot, we're going to do the same thing this way. So taking and using those 2 strands, I'm still going to make my 4. Bring that, my right hand side underneath, over the top of my 4, and then underneath everything and pull it up through. You're making just your regular basic square knot. You're just using a lot more cords. And as you snug it up, just kind of straighten your cords in the center. You're straightening it all the way up right to the middle. So you can see I've got everything hanging nice and straight. Nothing's really twisted. That was my first pass. My second pass is a backwards 4 over the top. Let these 2 cords hang down, bring them underneath and through. And again, carefully snugging it. So this is my center. That's my center knot. I'm just going to bring it all the way up. Take the time to really make it look nice. And there's your center feature. Bring those other cords back down. That is the whole complete first half. Now we're going to need to come back down. We're going to start this section, making your other part of your double diamonds coming down. So if I read my directions, it's going to say we are on step 11. We've brought down the 2 cords. We're going to use the very first left side cord. We're going down this way. We're going to be making 9 double diagonal half hitch knots going down towards the right side. So if I know I'm going to make 9, let's count those out. There's 1, 2, 3. Now it gets a little confusing because we want to get these in order. So 4, 5, straighten them out, 6, this little guy's twisted, 7, 8, and 9. So to make it easy, let's take this, drape it over your stick. I'm going to just tape it to the wall so we don't get confused. So there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That will be your cord that you'll use to work down, and then your 9 cords. So it's just a lot easier if you count them out to start with and make them so they don't twist. If it does twist, it's not the end of the world. You're really not going to see it that much, but it makes it, as you can see, they hang very nicely if you make sure you're using your correct cord. So now I'm going to be going down this way. I'm taking my cord across, and it's obvious that I'm going to use this as my first cord. And again, we're making the double diagonal half hitches. So we have to pass through twice. Make sure that's laying nice and flat. Here is my next cord. Make your U, bring it down. Make your U and bring it down. Here's your next cord. And you continue making your double diagonal half hitches. You can see now I'm into the center of my knots. So if you pull, then you're going to see, yep, that one's that one. Just straighten as you go through. That one twisted on me, so I am going to take that one back out. And I like to make the mistakes, or not necessarily mistakes, but I like to make the changes, because if it's happening to me, it's going to happen for you as well, unless you're just a master macrame artist, which I am not. So maybe it'll go a lot easier for you. But I like to show when I do make a mistake so you can see how I fix it. That's lying better. Like I said, if I try to do this too quickly, I have a tendency to get real twisty. That's better. This is my next cord. Bringing that up for you. And a U. And bringing it up. Snugging it over, and then that lays there. My next cord is not the one I'm tugging. This is my next one. So here we go. Up and snug. Up and snug. And arrange them as you need to. This is my next. This is my next one. And I have one more. So there are my 9 cords. They lay a little funny, only because you're going to really need to have this part of it to make them lay flat. But you've done your 9 diagonal hitch. So I'm going to move those up and over and out of the way. I'm going to take this back down off my wall. Now I'm going this way using my outermost right hand cord. So we'll tape that to the wall. I'm ignoring that whole section. Now we're going to work here. Here's my first. Make your U, bring it in front, bring it through. And do it again. That one's done. This is my next cord. Always do it in 2s. This is my next cord. Oops. Bring it through. Bring it through. My next. Straighten these out. And again, if you twist them a little bit, it's all right. It really won't matter that much. They'll still lay nicely. But if you can take the time to straighten them, straighten them. And continuing down. Almost finished. I'm not a fan of this knot, I'll have to admit, after doing this a few times. This one is not my favorite. Looks cute, but not my favorite, to be honest. So now we're going down that way. I finished that. We're going to bring that all the way down. So now, because that's hanging funny, we're going to have to connect it together. I twisted these as I went, so in case you do that too, you just have to push them closer together. As I got a little bit too far spaced. So if that happens to you, as you can see what I'm doing, I'm just pushing them back together. This one got really long. Let's take that one out. So if that happens to you, if you've twisted them like I did and it was just too far away, just redo it. So those are together. I have to do this knot again. One and two. And we want to bring those two sides together. And let's see, I still need to just straighten that. One side always turns out, just like when you're doing your hair, one side always ends up better than the other, doesn't it? I just need to push those more so that's laying straight for me. And now I want to do the same thing. I want to connect these side cords. I'm going to take my left side, like we did up above, bring it down using the right side cord, just so we can make that cord in the middle like we did up on top. Again, you didn't have to do that up on top. But that, close that gap, and then now that's bringing that together. We need to repeat row 11 and 12. So we need to do another set of diagonal cords. We're going to ignore this section. Bring it up and around, out of the way. We're going down this way again. So I'm going to tape my cord going that way. Starting with the left cord, bringing it down. Making our first half, double half hitch, and a double half hitch going to your next cord. So it's definitely easier to tape your cord down so you know which way you're going and you're not twisting your cord. And you can see that you definitely sometimes have to really maneuver your cords around to get them, especially as you saw this angle right here. I needed to push all of that up to get that to lie straight. So if yours is looking a little wonky, then just take the time to move and adjust as I did. And we're continuing through, leaving a little bit of a space in between. Again, remember, I like that spacing. If you want yours really close together, just bring it right up close. I like the space. Doing your double half hitch diagonals. All the way through. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 this time around, because we've got our other cord going up that way. Untape that. Bring all your cords down. Now we're going to go this way. If you want, leave those off to the side again, if that makes it easier. Get that up and away. And we're going this way. And yes, you will see one of the cords is getting pretty short. That's the nature of macrame. Some cords will stay really long, others will get really short depending on how you're using them, what directions they're going. So you can see if I don't keep that straight, it always has problems like up there if you don't keep this diagonal cord straight. You can see how nice and straight those are leaning. So it's all a matter of keeping that cord straight. Nice and tight, nice and straight. Whoops. Make your U, bring it through. The tape also acts as another pair of hands to help you keep that straight and taut. And the final one. And we're going to untape that and bring it all the way down. And we're going to knot these together as well. So we're going to do the same thing that we did before. Bring this diagonal cord down from your last left-hand side double half hitches. Bring that over, and using your right side cord, make another double diagonal half hitch. So that gives you your cords hanging down. And again, you'll straighten them out. That gives your point, arrow down, arrow up. So we've just completed row 15. And 16 was basically doing your double half hitch there. So now we're on to row 17. 17 says we're going to make a square knot using the first 4 left side cords. So we're going to the left, we're using our first 4, we're back to a regular square knot. And you want to snug it right up to be even there. So make sure that's nice and straight. And do your backwards 4. Now I'm going to go over to the last 2 cords. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Reading the directions, it says make a square knot using the first left side cords. Then take the last 2 cords of that knot and the next 2 cords of that knot, and we're going to make a square knot. So the last 2 of that one, and then the next 2 cords, and make another square knot. And you're backwards. And making it even. Now I'm going to use those last 2 that I just used and the next 2. So you're reusing 2 of the cords each time because we're going backwards on a kind of on a diagonal, so we've got to make up space. But you're still kind of doing what you did the first time around. And then we need to make 1 more knot. So I'm going to use the last 2 cords of this square knot that I just used and the next 2 cords. So here we're going to have 4 square knots on this left hand side. Kind of like an alternating square knot, but it's still just considered a square knot. So it looks like that, but you're doing it all in 1 row. This one, we did rows straight across. Here, we're trying to fill up the space, so that mirrors that. That's row 17. Now on row 18, we're basically going to do the same thing going back this way. So we're going to have 4 knots. So we're going to use our first 4 cords, make a square knot, keep it even, do your backwards 4, snugging it up to be even with that one. So now I'm going to ignore these 2 end cords of this knot. I'm going to use these 2 cords and then my next 2 cords. But remember, because I'm doing a square knot, I'm always using this left hand cord first. So now I am making another square knot. And we're going this way. And making it even. I'm going to ignore these 2 cords and use these 2. And then these 2. Bringing it up. Doing my backwards 4. That's my 3rd knot. So my 4th knot, I'm going to ignore these first 2 cords, use these 2 cords and these 2 cords, starting with my left cord. And now my backward pass. Straighten them so they're not twisting. So now I have 4 cords going down on the right hand side. We've just completed row 18. So for row 19, it wants me to connect, like we did up here, connect these 2 cords together. I need to use the center 4 cords. So here's my center 2 and my next 2. So these are my center 4 cords. I'm going to connect these 2 sides together by doing 1 square knot. Keeping it even, snugging it, doing my backward pass. So you can see you still have a little kind of a biggish hole here, biggish hole here, but we're going this way and that way. So that was my row 19. So now for row 20, I need to repeat row 17. So I'm going to start back all the way to my first 4 cords. So we're going to repeat this whole row again, making our regular square knot. I'm going to ignore those 2. I'm going to use those 2 and those 2. My backwards pass. making sure those don't twist. So that square knot is made. I'm not going to use the first 2 cords. I'll put those down. I'm going to use my end 2 cords and my next 2 cords. And my backwards 4. Ignore those 2, end 2, next 2. And now that row is done. Now I am going to repeat row 18. I'm going to go back down this way, so I get my next set going down. So I'm going to come all the way to the end 4 and do my square knot. I'm going to ignore those 2 cords, use these 2 and the next 2, but always starting on the very far left cord. Frontwards and backwards. Make sure it doesn't twist. Snug it up. Not going to use those 2. I'm going to do the first 2 and these 2. I'm going to ignore those 2, and I'm now going to use these 2. Snugging it up. And bringing it up. So now I have 4 cords. I'm going to repeat row 19 and connect these 2 sides together again, doing a knot with my middle 4 cords. And making a square knot. So as you can see, our top part now matches the bottom knot. We're going to take the extra 4 cords that we had before. There should be 4 cords left because we needed a total of 14 86-inch cords. So I am now going to attach 2 cords on the left side and 2 cords on the right side using a lark's head knot. So again, remember that's bringing 2 cords together, finding your middle. I'm going to just push this over a little bit. Bring that down through, fingers from the back. That's 1. I'm going to do another lark's head knot. Coming to my hoop, putting my hoop through the back, making sure I don't twist it, bringing it through, and that's 2. So I've attached 2 of my cords to my left-hand side. We are now going to do the spiral knot. Now a spiral knot is basically just a half of a square knot. That's this part. So when I'm doing my spiral knot, I am always going to be using my left side cord. So I am making the first pass of my square knot like usual. but I'm not going to do my backwards. I'm going to always use my left side cord. So now you're going to just keep doing basically half of a square knot and snugging that up. So I am going to just keep doing half of a square knot with my left cord. And after you get a few on there, you're going to see that it's going to want to start to spin. It will automatically, naturally spiral. So now you can see that has totally started to turn. I usually do about 4 or 5 knots, and then see how it naturally wants to spin. I let it. I completely spin it and then start on this side. By doing that, otherwise you'd have, see how short that cord is there? That would happen to your one cord if you never spun it around. So you can see if I try to straighten it, it automatically wants to spin. This is my left hand cord. I want to completely just spin it. So now my left cord is on the right side. I can pick up my right, what was my right cord, which is now my left cord. And I'm still going to always use the cord just on the left side. So I'm going to keep using this left side cord. What that does is it gives you a nice even spiral, and again helps with your cords to keep them somewhat even. You'll know it doesn't, there's no rocket science as to when you spin it. You'll know when. Like I said, I usually do either 4 or 5. And then what I would do is I would be consistent. If you chose 4, spin it every 4th. If you choose 5, spin it again. So you can see the nice tight spiral. And again, always using your left hand cord. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I like 5. 5. And then I'm going to spin it. And we're going to continue this all the way down until you come to the center of your 2 square knots at the bottom. So it doesn't really matter how many knots you do. I counted it the first time and it was roughly 34. But again, when I did this one, this is where you can really see the difference of it hanging straight down versus being on a table. This is a bit too far away. See how wide that is? I didn't like the way that ended up. But when it's on a table, you don't always have the ability to see how it's hanging. So that's why I really like doing it on the wall. You really get to see where you need to be. And we'll count. I'll definitely count this. I'm going to spin it. And now I'm just going to gently stretch that out. Bring it down. So now you can see I'm right in the middle. I haven't run out of cord, and I'm right in the middle. So if we count these, count your lines. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, about 27 spinning down. So even on your directions, I said about 34. That was laying down on a table. I like the 27. However many you do, make sure you don't run out of cord and get in between those two knots. So for us, that was 27. We're now going to attach our cords to the right-hand side and do the exact same thing. So I'm going to just move that over a bit. Attach my cords with my lark's head knot. Find your center. Bring it down. Make your lark's head knot. And we're going to do the exact same process, doing your spiral knot using just your left side cord. They don't have to be even, but it would be nice if they were, about 27, or however many you decided to use. And again, because you're going to be spreading it out a little bit, if you want to, you know, continue to do them tight, that makes it a little easier. And I'm going to spin. And spin. That was with the 5, so I'm going to spin again. Five, I'm going to spin again. Five. Let's count them. See where we stand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Let's go 25. 26. And we'll keep it even, and we'll say 27. And again, I'm gonna gently slide those down. So I am right even in between the bottom knots. And you see a nice little spiral there. Since I moved everything over, spread it out again. So a nice little spiral. So now we've done our spiral knots. We are going to, that was row 24, and this is row 25. Row 26 is taking the left side cord and making 13 double diagonal half hitches going down. You can see that these cords are very short. So what I'm going to do is I'm just not going to use that end cord. I'm going to take my middle cord and I'm going to go going down this way. It will not matter. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So we're ending up right in the middle. So again, because these cords are so short on this side, I'm going to use this as my diagonal. So it's going to be a little fiddly to start with, but I'll use this cord. Make your U, bring it down, make your U, and bring it down. That's a half hitch. That's your first one. You can see that the cord's twisting a little bit. You can twist it back up. I'm going to use my center cord now. Let's tape this to the wall to make it easier for you folks to see what I'm doing. So now I've done the one. I'm going to my middle. So we're doing the U, double diagonal half hitches, bringing that through, snug it up. Straighten it out, snug it up. And again, this one's a little short too, but we're still going to make it work. I'm going to retwist this a bit. Making your U, bringing it down, bringing it through, down, and through. And we've got that one. So now I'm to the project. So now we're going to basically be connecting the spiral to your project. So when I do this one, I want to snug it right up next to it so it's nice and tight up against there. So now we've connected this spiral to this, and we're continuing down. When you're making really big macrame wall hangings, sometimes your cord does get like that, and there are ways to tie new cording to your old cord so you can continue on. I'm just not showing that in this video because you don't have any extra cord from your kit. But if you are making some big ones and that happens, do look up the YouTube videos for that. There's a lot of them out there that show how to add more cording. So if you wanted to keep making spirals, you'd be able to keep going down with your cords added. But for this purpose, we're just using what we have. Depending on how loose you made some of your knots, shows how much cord you have left at the end. Almost to the bottom. And no, I'm at my bottom cord. I'm going to take that one down. We're now going to do the same thing going this way. And again, these were short. I'm going to use this as my end cord. So I'm going to bring that cord straight across. We're going to tape that again. So now we have the little fudgy part. Bringing it under. I'm just going to bring that to the back that way. Make your U. Down and through. U. Down and through. That first one is just the hardest because it is so tiny. And then I've got my next little one. Make my U, right through, my U, and bring it through. Now we're going to connect it. This is your next little one. Make your U. You're connecting, making it snug right next to it. And then now we're just going to continue on down with our other cords. Doing our double diagonal half hitch. So that's 2 for each one. And continuing it on down. The end is in sight. Working it all the way down to my final cord. So now we have 2 sides. This side and this side, I'm going to do the same thing that we did at the top. I'm going to connect the 2 sides. So I'm going to bring my left over my right, and then using my right side, do a double diagonal with your right cord to connect the 2 together. So basically, you have finished. You can see that your cords are different, varying lengths. They're all a little different. Now, when I first did this one, my cord was not this short that I had used on this side. It just ended up not being that short. So that's why when I cut my fringe, I cut it to that very first cord. This one got really short, and I'm not sure if yours will have gotten short as well. Now is the time you decide, how do I want to finish this? You could use this as a design element. Take this all apart and let this fringe on this side. And you could take all of this and let that whole little area, which is what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to just untwist all of my strands here on my end spiral cords. So once you untwist your cords, then you can see you get all of this neat little, this is how they make the feathers as well. You can see you get that fringe effect. So I'm going to make, for my own self, I'm going to make a personal decision. I like the way those two are even. And I think I'm going to come down and maybe start to angle it a bit. I'm going to cut that off. So that just gives you like a little tassel area on that side. And you can also take a comb and comb that out, and that'll get your fringe to stay a little closer together. You can see that it does want to unwind. If you want to keep your cords straight, go ahead and twist your cords, get it back together, and if you want to take a glue stick, put a little bit of glue on your end there and then twist it, and then your cords will stay. Or if you don't mind the little bit of fringe hanging, keep it that way. I'm going to play around with this. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side so it's even. To have it hang, you could attach beads. You can cut it at any various different lengths that you want. You could cut it straight across. I'm going to keep cutting mine at an angle because it has the point going down, so I'm going to continue with the point so it points down. So that will just take time, and then you can just eyeball it, cut and cut. And then you just want to attach a cord up to the top to be able to hang it like that. So that was a very involved and long process, but I think it comes out with a really great macrame hanging. I hope you had fun with this. Rewatch the video as many times as you need to be able to get the knots down. Go back to the beginning if you need the refresher. I hope you enjoyed this class. I hope you enjoyed making your macrame, and I hope you will watch more YouTube videos and make other types of macrame that are out there. So thank you for doing Crafting with Kimberly, and I will see you the next time. Bye.